Okay. First off, Scorpius, how's it going, man? How's life?
Not too bad. Um, Working a lot and all that.
I get that. I feel that. So here is my plan today with these deck doctors. So first and foremost, thank you so much for hanging out with me on Patreon. I really appreciate it.
Hmm.
It's it feels good that like people kind of want to hear what I have to say. So very cool. Thank you. Um, I want to ask a couple introductory questions about the deck just to make sure, because what matters to me here and the reason to do this is that you get out what you want out of this conversation, right?
Right.
And so the first question that I have here is this a deck that you're like just theory crafting, or is this like you have these cards in person? What's the level of like, if I go buck wild and tell you to put crazy cards in here, what's your access to cards?
So I was able to get quite a few boxes.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
well, I guess quite a few subjective. Okay, I had like 10-ish, and then
That's way
a
more than I did.
rival deck. Well, I got lucky and like our store got some initially,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to trade in like magic cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, whatnot, and get store credit and all that. So
Love that. Love that.
I was able to get into that. We're still waiting for restocks, obviously. Who isn't?
Who isn't?
But like right now, like for example, like there's some of the hard to get ultra rares. I've only got like a couple of.
Okay.
Um, so I'm a little limited. Like I feel like it comes up once in a while, but for the most part, I've got like a set of everything.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool.
Um,
So if I was
for
like,
like
yo,
just looking at the
put
list
Evil
right
Gaze
now,
up
like,
to a four of, you'd be like,
yeah,
sure, we can do that.
it would be at 4
Mm-hmm.
if I already had 4. Yeah,
Got
that
it.
that one's unfortunately a 2,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, I didn't buy them when they were still like $5.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
have. It
Creeping
looks like
big.
they've come down a little bit, so hopefully I can get some soon. But
Okay. Okay.
yeah, aside from that, yeah.
How competitive do you want this list to be?
Well, like we don't have any competition to speak of at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm still playing a bunch of different decks, kind of feeling out, seeing what I actually like, versus different the people who are playing in my area. Um, I mean, we've got some casual players. We've got maybe like one or two other serious players at the moment.
Okay.
So it doesn't like unless there's another big tournament out in like one of the big areas like Omaha or something,
Right.
it's not needing to be super tuned. And obviously I'm not going to have like all the cards to maybe super tune it anyway,
Yeah.
but
I'm just trying to get an idea of like where your head is, because like an easy
sure.
answer could have just been like, this is a big beam deck, and I just wanted to like make it as fun as possible, which is a totally valid, totally correct answer.
Yeah.
So, as we're looking at the deck, can you take me through the elevator pitch of like your idea, your give me your pitch of like why this deck should exist and why we're looking at it.
So at one point I wanted to work on Bakugo and I was looking through all the cards and I saw Monster Blast and I'm like, that looks sick. And I was looking through low attacks and I went back over Berserker Blow and I'm like, oh, 2 attacks, pop 2 foundations. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Trade my one foundation because I have to destroy with Berserker Blow to destroy two of theirs,
And
or
then
it gets
incidentally, he's
blocked
got
and
stuff.
then it gets
Sorry.
cleared.
Yep. And then Evil Gaze thrown in the mix. Stuff like burst speed. So when I do destroy my foundations, they're taking incidental damage.
Yeah,
Uh, Blast Rush Turbo is a hell of a move. If I can pull that one off too.
yeah. It's a good one. It's one of the good ones.
So yeah,
Um.
just good low attacks. I'm on the death symbol.
Okay.
And I just want to just kind of see how that initial idea could go into a whole deck.
Okay. I dig it. Man, all of his low attacks certainly have high blocks, huh?
Hmm.
How lame. Okay, so the mandatory cards that we need is Monster Blast because that's like our build around. Our
That's the
kill
main card, yeah.
card is Blast Rush Turbo because that's the one that absolutely gets there.
Hmm.
I'm digging Signature Right Swing to filter. I like the one of Berserker Blow also has a low block, right? It's mid.
So I should say something right now. There's going to be some questionable ratios. There's going to be some cards that are missing
Mm-hmm.
that seem auto include. Um, like this list as it is, and physically IRL.
Mm-hmm.
I threw the deck together, and then I haven't modified it since. Like I've just been
Mm.
because I kind of fall into a trap sometimes of over tuning a deck. So I really wanted
Ooh.
to get in reps with a certain list before I go, okay, now here's what I want to cut to put in. Like I forgot, I didn't even, my, what's the one on just card you draw to, the foundation.
The um we know what you're talking about. It's got Bakugo's the big
Yeah.
dumb face on it. Who knows?
Like they were sitting in a different deck at the time. So when I was going through my stuff, I didn't even remember to like put those in. So it's like,
Okay.
okay, I want to get a feel for what's not working before I go and throw those in,
Okay.
sort of thing.
I love that. I love that. So I'm gonna look at the attack lineup first. This attack
Mhm.
lineup looks absolutely fine. 4, 3, 2. How many howitzer impacts do you own?
Just the two.
Okay. I think if you can find 2 more, I think this is one of the biggest conditions that you have. A 4 diff 4 low for or 4 diff 6 low for 8 as like its highest cap is like really strong as we string late in this
Mhm.
kind of a deck, especially with a Monster Blast destroying their best resource because this card says that we get to pick what it is.
Mhm. And that's the other
Sign
thing I thought was really nuts. It's like, oh, it's to use a magic term, it's land destruction.
Yeah,
Cool.
it is
That's
selective. It is selective destruction. So I actually want to go ahead and look up on Ultra. We'll click my hero attack, death low, uh, attack zone low, and see what else exists. Right, like binding capture cloth. Obviously, some of these aren't going to have the fury keyword. Why are we playing corrosion lunge?
which one's that?
It's a 5 diff. It's got a low block itself. If the attack is
Let's
blocked, your
see
next one
here.
gets 2/2. It's also deadlock hate, which is neat.
I mean, it's totally viable. It, like I said, it might just not be something I grabbed initially.
That's fair. That's fair. We'll go back
I,
to the deck.
maybe once I was kind of fine tuning the initial rough draft, the low blocks might have looked fine, so I wasn't really looking for low blocks.
That's fair. We can go look at block zones. Actually, I can do it here. Yeah, 13 lows. That's a fine number. Personally, whenever I make decks, I am such a this is a really divisive inside of the universe's community of what do we how do you care about block zones? There are some people in the
Yeah,
camp like myself who are like, my block zones need to be as even as possible. What happens when some nerd comes and they play an all low deck and I have 4 low
right.
blocks in my deck? What are you gonna do then, huh?
And and I mean, incidentally, I think it was after watching some of your deck build videos where I was like, okay, when I'm working on stuff, I need to consider block zones a lot more than I have been.
Yeah.
So more build most of the time when I've been working on a deck, I've been trying to like mid is always going to seem to be highest.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been trying to keep and I'm surprised I didn't do it with this list. I thought I had a better ratio on this one, but I've been trying to keep like low and high kind of even.
Okay. Yeah, I think keeping low and high is personally how I feel it should go because pretty much every turn, unless like every turn, if I don't know what my opponent is doing, I want to hold 1 high, 1 mid, 1 low. If I'm playing like a defensive whatever, and then from there, once I figured out what their deck does, like this one, there's no reason to hold high blocks. Right, I am down to get poked by the signature right swing. That's fine. uh,
Or like for example, if I'm in a deck that's running like if I have access to 4 tape, I can be fine being high on mid blocks, or if I have access to
correct.
like 4 wall cling, a bunch of mid blocks are fine.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um on the actions assets, do we not have um the Trishik Cape? Is that not a card we have access to?
I do.
Okay.
Um, it's one of those I haven't played around a lot with. So it's one of those where like I have I'm aware that it's included in a lot of lists,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't played around with it a lot myself. Sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, this card everybody says it's really good," but until like I actually get a chance to like see for myself that it's really good, I don't really go to it right away, sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that. So my big thing about it, is Fidu in chat says super rejuvenation, as a
I do
foundation.
have 4 of those. It was
Okay,
also probably one of those ones that I just forgot about at the time.
totally chill.
Um, I've I can definitely see it in here.
The reason that I bring it up is
Mhm.
Tray Sheet Cape, being able
Right.
to gain 3 health on every other cycle of the turn of the game, is enough to stretch this 28 to make the asset worth it. Same thing with Apathetic, being able to target flip 1 foundation. Like, that's in our game, that's essentially land destruction too, right? Because every foundation does something.
Oh,
And
so you're talking about Trishy Cape alongside Super Regeneration.
correct. Yeah.
Oh.
I get hit. I flip my super regen. I block a card by committing super regen. My first enhance is to unflip it with Trishy Cape. It readies back on my turn. Well, now it's ready for your turn, right? So every cycle
Oh.
of the game, I gain 3 health. That's kind of crazy, right? When you think about it, like that's taking 1 exploding pride to the face every fresh of a turn. That's really good for enhance commit an asset. Like, you would play that asset if it said enhance commit gain 3, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So it's a bit of
that sounds crazy, but there's like a slightly more hoops to jump through.
right, but at this stage of the game, it's not like it's going to be that hard for them to stop unless it's a mirror or something.
Yeah, for sure. And I can
Yeah,
tell you,
yeah.
I've been playing this game. I think, and this might be a little cap. I think I've played this game more than anybody in the entire world. I have never seen somebody play Monster Blast.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just
the other thing too. Was like I'm
yeah,
sitting there, I'm like, okay, I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this, so I figured it's kind of got that catch people off guard aspect too at some point.
yeah, for sure,
Um,
100%. Yeah,
I
I've seen
think
this
the only
list as
oh, go on.
a Nomu deck, but I've never seen it as a Bakugo list, and I dig it.
Mm.
I really like it.
See, this could be Shigaraki, this could be Nomu. I
Mm-hmm.
really just wanted to build Bakugo at the time.
Yeah,
Um,
he gets the most value out of
Super,
Blast Rush Turbo, which is
yeah,
like
that too.
needed inside of the low mo deck, as people call it.
Mhm. Honestly, if I play tested this list before, if I wanted to be on Nomu, I'd probably just run the Earth list that got like 5th place.
Yeah, that's
Because
fine.
that list looks really solid. It's fun, but people that are just kind of getting into the game, they don't like Nomu, and I can understand. So I don't want to like scare people. I don't want to chase people off that are just trying to like have fun with their floppy decks and whatnot.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but no, I think so. Super Gen and Cape, I think, and feel free to enlighten me on if my thoughts on this are off or
Hmm.
what I need to consider as an alternative. But I think one of the things that had me back off on them, at least initially, is they're both like +4 on their block.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too worried about that.
I think so personally because of the impact that those cards have on board, right? If you
Mhm.
can put both of those cards on board, then you don't need to block, right?
Right.
Super Regen itself says that it auto blocks Exploding Pride, or it half blocks every other card in your deck, right? If
Mhm.
you don't trigger with Bakugo, Super Regen existing on the board, being a useful resource to commit and be a foundation, is a half block on Blast Rush Turbo, right?
Right. I guess I overlooked the fact entirely that if I need to block with those cards specifically, something's already gone horribly wrong.
Correct, 100%. You
Okay.
you drew with latent skill, which thank you, chat. You drew with latent skill by discarding 2 cards, draw 2 cards as an act of desperation, and you happen to find the 4 high block.
Right.
Rough. Well, we
But
have
and
arrogant disposition for
cards
minus speed. We've got shock absorption for minus speed. We've got evil gaze for minus speed. So if you, mediator for minus speed, if you absolutely have to, you do have that emergency button of, well, I'll use this resource to not die.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're gonna be trying to find room for at least the regens and the capes. And I do have 4 of each if need be.
I think that you just run a singular cape. I think you run 1 cape. If you absolutely wanted to, you could find a slot for 2, but because there is no asset destruction in the game,
I don't think
none.
so. No.
I
I
think
don't
you can
know.
seal an asset with irrefutable force of nature, but
Yeah.
there's no asset destruction, so you don't need the second one because it's not part of your it's not part of your
Yeah.
core thing. You are not Ayama, who has to run like
Mhm.
3 of that card because unflipping 1 foundation per turn for him is like game changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it's unique. So
Correct. And a 4 mid block, and that sucks. We never want to see 2 of it.
right. Right.
Onto the foundations. It looks like, let's go ahead and just look at the difficulty of your cards. So spam wise, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 21 spam out of your 34 cards. This looks good. This looks solid spam wise, to the point where we could even maybe take and limit some of these numbers so that you get to have some more high impact cards. I'm a big advocate, even inside of the My Hero format, to not run a bunch of 4-ofs. I love running 1s and 2s. Like your Keen Observation at a 2-of is great. You have no other 2s in here.
And see, that's kind of odd. I was thinking about I one of the hard things for me with this game is like coming from other games where it's like, if you're serious about this card, you need to max it out. Like
100%.
Heck copies aren't. It really is like unless your deck has a way to like search for something out, it's usually you need to like run the max copies and everything to see them. But then again, this game is a different beast entirely, so it's gonna take me some time to get used to kind of that mindset. Keen Observation, like the only reason that one I had debated going higher on that one, but it only really works with maybe Exploding Pride and Burst Speed. So it was just like, it's another 0, another high block. A couple extra point of damage. I feel like 2 is wrong. I feel like I should either maybe just consider cutting it or maxing it out. But what are your thoughts, I guess?
So I think Keen Observation is fine, because of the idea of like limiting yourself to all these low moves. You're right. Exploding Pride is great, and then Burst Speed is playable. But since we're not playing Touch of Decay, I think that's the name of that card. It's the Shigaraki Ultra Rare, since it's a high. Since we're not playing that card, this card loses a lot of value, to the point where I agree. I think cutting it would be totally fine, unless you absolutely need the block zones, which it looks like you do not. Yeah, it looks like your block zones are fine here.
With the super regen setup that we're talking about.
Well, that card we have to assume, quote unquote, doesn't have a block, right? So like we can't.
Well,
count it towards the high zone, but yeah,
we're gonna have the healing.
Correct.
The healing engine going on. So
yeah. I want to go all the way back to the thought of maxing out 4-ofs. That mentality is still true here, but I think that mentality is more important for attacks than it is for foundations, because of them just existing on the board. The way that you can really think about foundations, or the way that I think about foundations, people have opinions, obviously, is unless a move is like spammable, right? Unless it's something along the lines of, I guess inside of this deck, we actually don't even have a spammable move. Let's go find this card here. Classmate Introductions. Classmate Introductions. Enhance : if your rival has not played a block this turn, this deck gets +1 speed. This is like a 4-of. If this card's either a 0-of or a 4-of. I think this card is a 4-of in every deck that I want to play it in, strictly because of the fact that the more copies I have on my board, it's just literally, I just press the button. There is no cost on this card, and it has such a high output of stuff. This is one of the strongest foundations of the entire game, just because it just presses the button. +4 speed on every move is amazing. They just don't block it, and then it can't go any further. But because we have actual cost on our moves of destroy, flip, destroy, commit, like there's no just like free button press. I think the closest thing you have is Villainous Entrance, and so we don't have free moves, and so we need to spread out what our net can cover, right, in order to affect different decks. This is one of the things that people, as the meta evolves, whenever set 2 comes in, and we assume that set 2 is as big as set 1, and there's not 18 characters we have to deal with in the game, because like essentially all 18 characters from the main set are playable and could go win a tournament. I believe that. I believe that every character could go and win a tournament, as long as they have figured out the trick to beat Kirishima. But as soon as you put 36 characters into the game, your deck building looks so unbelievably different, because you're going to have so many of these corner cases that you have to play your way out of. And so it's just a good idea now to just like think about your Venn diagram for all 18 characters. Which of these cards in my deck are good versus this half of the board, which is good against this half of the board, and making a really tight, really optimal deck, I don't actually think is the right play inside of not just My Hero, but universes as a whole. Just because we have so many options and so many things we have to fight. You brought up Yu-Gi-Oh! Did you play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! At all?
Fortunately.
He said,
Um,
unfortunately.
I off and on. My most recent, I was trying to play this year. Yeah, I tried to play earlier this year was the last time I was doing it really competitive, going to locals once or twice every week and
Okay.
really focused on my deck, spending money on it.
I played a couple years ago. By a couple, I mean like 4, 5, maybe even longer. Honestly, I can't. Time is a flat circle, but it always felt like most of the time Yu-Gi-Oh was like a paper rock scissors format, and then there was like one or two possible rogue decks. Is it still the same way? Like you get your 3 or 4
Um,
big beaters, and then everything else is like trying
yeah,
to fight those 3 decks.
yeah. Last time I played, it still felt like each format had like it's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 tier 1 decks,
Right.
and like the rest was like maybe a handful of rogue decks, and then just uh everything after that was just loses to Ash Blossom.
um, you guys in a very diverse format right now. Okay, Nightmare. That's very cool. Yeah, I would not know. I have jumped out of that sphere. The point that I'm making is this game is not paper rock scissors, and you have to make sure that your deck building is appropriate for it. And so the idea of 4X on foundations at least does not. I don't like the idea of 4X foundations unless it's absolutely necessary, right? Like, I think the main 4X that I would put in here is burst speed because it has my name on it. It literally just says Bakugo response, and I'm the only person who can play it. But I think that that also might be a trap, and the more that you play with the deck, you might be like, oh, I don't need burst speed that much, right? You could easily side this against Nomu because this is like the best Nomu piece that you have to like fight that character. Does that make sense about the idea of like 4 ofs?
Yeah, yeah, it
Okay.
definitely does.
Okay. So now I want to take in just like look at some Death My Hero foundations and just like let it rock. So Late Riser sucks, Mediator sucks. Night Watch is not a bad idea, just because of the fact that the check system exists. You could just like check one of your Evil Gazes, and if you end up pushing Evil Gaze up to the 4 of, then like that's just more instances where you just get to negate things, right? Not to mention, if we absolutely want to, if we don't find Monster Blast, we could like put in a really, really spicy 1 of Erase, which would like 1 mid block, breaker 1, seal one of their problem foundations if you don't find one of your answers, right? Like that's like these cute little 2-piece combos. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at Night Watch and really that was pretty much what had me kind of not go with it was, well, I've only got 2 Evil Gaze. If
Mm-hmm.
I had 4, I'd probably take in a couple Night Watch just to be cheeky about it. But
Why are you not playing Agitation?
Agitation. Which one was that one again?
Response commit after if your attack is blocked, draw 1 card. It's a 2/5/3
Oh,
mid
that
block.
one, yeah. Um, again, it was probably just one of those ones that I just forgot about at the time, is all.
I think this card inside of Bakugo, and encouragement inside of Bakugo are two of the like if you want to put 4 ofs in your deck, I think that's where they are. I think this
Mhm.
card saying that every one of your attacks is a cantrip if my opponent interacts with me is insane. And not only is it a cantrip, but it's a cantrip that clears the card pool. And so this card just existing on the board puts them in that coordinated effort sphere of like, man, I really don't want to interact with this move at all because I don't want to give him that extra resource and discard the card, especially because we're playing Blast Rush Turbo at a 4 of, and even more especially because we are telegraphing what our zones are, right? You are going to get to turn 3, turn 4 at the latest. Your opponent's going to look at your discard pile and go, huh, there are no high attacks in here. Well, now I know exactly how to perfect block Bakugo. I
Mhm.
just know how to do that. He'll never touch me again. No low block is going to touch my stage. They're all going to stay in my hand. Even if I draw 5 low blocks, I'll just hold them, and he'll never touch me again, right? And so being able to like dig a little deeper inside of your deck because your deck is quote unquote limited on what it does. Your deck's very niche on its attack lineup, right? The only off zones you have are Signature Right Swing, which we're probably going to change, and Monster Blast, which is a mid, which still gets blocked by low.
Yeah, that was one thing I was wondering how this is going to pan out. I having not a lot of experience with universes up until just with My Hero Form, I was like, I didn't know. I guess if certain characters had abilities that mattered with it, but I didn't know if like monozone spamming of like a certain type was going to be a good or a bad idea. I mean, obviously the one advantage is early game if you can like run them out of a specific zone,
Mm-hmm.
cool, they're going to have a harder time dealing with it. But then, counter to that, it's like you said, it's like, well, they know what I'm going to throw most likely, so they can just start stocking up on that once they figure it out.
Correct. And that is like that's one of the big things with Ochako, right? Is she the reason that her high zone overload works is she gets to every turn guarantee that she draws an attack because of her response. Her response, it goes to momentum, enhance, commit, add an attack to my hand. And we don't have that same ability with agitation. We have to draw a random card. Oh, we have to draw a random one. But we still have to have that idea of if you interact with me, once you've figured out my gimmick, I have to find ways to push up and over. Having an over one zone overload deck is fine, but realize that there's sometimes your opponent is just going to either draw the nuts or your opponent is going to not draw the nuts and you'll kill them for free, right? Having one zone overloaded is going to be all about my opponent, like what block zones do they draw, right? Like I lost against Ochako during my lemon challenge, where I drew 6 cards and had 3 lows and 3 mids, and she plays an all high deck. I'm at 5. Like I can't live through that. It's just not possible. And you'll find the same thing happen here. Where they will draw, like if you put the mirror match, right, of your Bakugo deck versus a Bakugo deck exactly how it is currently, you're gonna beat your own deck because it's 20-13. You've got more highs than you do lows since they're not even. And so like there are plenty of people who have made this exact deck, but even worse, right? They've got 24 to like 9. They only get to block 9 of your 18 moves. That's crazy. Yeah, you'll just win because of how they have built their deck, and that's kind of what we're banking on here with BAKU-LOW.
Yeah, and that was the only thought process of going low as well. First of all, I want to have as many options to follow up with Monster Blast, and plus, low blocking kind of seems to be like, no pun intended, the lowest on people's radar.
Yeah.
Usually, people will be like, "Well, I've naturally got more mids than high or low," and well, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna edge on the side of high because I know decks like you're saying, like a Chacos and all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
will focus on high. The only like I think like if I think scary low, like the first thing that comes to mind would be like can't remember the name now. Recipro Burst.
Yeah.
But like you're needing help blocking that anyway.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I completely agree, and to the point where I think that, and this is where we start to make some real choices, right? I think
Mhm.
capabilities is one of the best options that you can have in this kind of a deck because of the fact that you are overloading one zone. If you can get them with a couple gotchas and steal a couple quick momentum, because we're not playing the secret rare, because one, it's the wrong zone, and two, possibly we don't have it. Do you have Bakugo secret rare?
Actually, of the secret rares, I got two, and it was the two of Bakugos.
Yo, that's hype. I
Yep.
would totally think about, and we'll get to sideboard here in a second. Scavenger's got a really good idea of the other option is to sideboard to swap to other zones and mess up their blocks in game 2 and game 3, right? Like
Cheeky. I like it.
yeah, there's some real spice that you can do. It reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh back when your like people would sideboard entire like 15 card engines. Like my 15 card wind up decks turns into like a 15 card uh dino rabbit deck. Fun stuff. But anyways, I think
Oh man.
capabilities, being able to be it itself, the capabilities is blast rush turbo on any move, right? It's instead of 1 speed 3 damage, it's 2 speed 5 damage, and the only issue that we have with it is a 4 high block, which we are thinking about putting not capabilities, the other card, whatever the other card is. Who knows? Super Rejuvenation. That's the name of that card.
Right.
Yeah. Which is also a 4 high block, and so our high blocks are now getting a little fuzzy here. But this is something that I could easily see as like a 2 of, maybe even a 3 of, depending on how quickly you could steal this momentum and then just blow them up. Like
Yeah. Capabilities was the 1 of in that deck, so that's one of the other ones I want to have 2 of.
yeah, which
But
I think
2 might be a good number anyway.
I think 2 is totally fine. I think 2 is totally fine.
Yeah, if I have that going into Blast Rush Turbo, if I got 2 momentum, that's probably going to just kill people.
Yeah, everybody in the game except for Nomu, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Did you say 6? I thought you meant 6. Encouragement. I think this is another 4 of. I think you have to play for this card at a 4 of in Bakugo, especially as Scavenger put out. You have Blast Rush Turbo, right? This card's not turned on if my opponent does not interact with me. But if I have encouragement, then Blast Rush Turbo is turned on. I can tell you that inside of my Bakugo decks, this card is going to be a 4 of from now on. I think Blast Rush Turbo is too important of a card to leave on the table. I think currently I have it like 2 ofs or whatever. This card is an absolute beating and will demolish people. I think you have to play encouragement inside of your Bakugo decks, as well as this is another target for you to unflip with Trey Sheet Cape, and like imagine playing 5 of this card. That sounds amazing. Like they have to block your moves, which is going to force them to hold cards in their hand, which means they don't get to sculpt as much, which means like there's so many interactions with this game. I love it. It's very cool. Endanger Suck. Latent Skill is great. I think Latent Skill, because there's very little negation that happens in this game. I think the only negating that we have is Night Watch. I think that we have to play Latent Skill at a fairly high number.
Yeah.
I think that it is.
There have been times where I'm just sitting there like, oh, okay, I've got all of the wrong type, It's like
correct. Yeah, not to mention it works with like burst speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like discard burst speed and another foundation, burn them 2, draw 2. Oof, that's nuts.
One of the things that I have been noticing as kind of an issue with Bakugo is between his ability and a lot of his cards, I'll sit there and it's like I really want to go in order to do that. I kind of have to have some stuff built.
Yeah.
But then like it really kind of wants to eat through its foundations. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I have to decide, okay, do I want to build again or do I want to have cards in my hand to block with?
Correct.
And a lot of the times I found myself as a personal issue with me, I'll be like, all right, cool, I built. Awesome. I forgot to leave cards in my hand.
Well, then that is another reason for us to double down on Super Rejuvenation. Because it's a half block without blocking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's fight bad guys. Are we playing that card?
Don't think
no, it does not look like it. Interesting. I think this is another one of those cards that I would put in at a 4 of. Like this is officially my 4 of list, right? Let's Fight Bad Guys says that even if my opponent did find the right block zone and they held their lows, you're going to commit them out so that later on your Blast Rush Turbos are gonna do this. They're gonna commit so many resources to attempt to block your cards that your Blast Rush Turbo is for sure gonna get in there for the poke. And now we get to take and go back and look. All the cards that I'm putting in your deck that I'm suggesting you play are aggressive cards, right? Agitation is a flow card. Capabilities is an aggressive card. Latent Skill, I think personally, is an aggressive card. It's technically a flow card because it draws and helps your game plan. It doesn't put damage on. And then Let's Fight Bad Guys is more speed. And if we look, Mediator is a defense card. Apathetic's a disruption card. Keen Observation is a aggro card. Someone with Style is flow. We've got defense. You've got so much speed hate in this deck. We got so much with Shock Absorption as well as Arrogant as well as Mediator. there's not a lot of offensive speed. The only offensive speed that we have is Glamorous, and that's only if they've interacted with us, right? It gets +3 speed, only playable if its speed is less than printed, right? And so I think if we take and like imagine Blast Rush Turbo with this +2 speed from Let's Fight Bad Guys, with the +2 speed from capabilities, plus the 1 speed from itself. That's a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 low for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9 low for 13, not to mention if you have the momentum discard for all the other Furies. That's insane. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so, like, I think, and not to mention, we can flip over our Let's Fight Bad Guys and then blow it up with Bakugo, and now our 1 diff, our 1/5 with a 2 mid block is a 2 speed, +2 speed, +2 damage with our character. Whew.
So just to keep track of everything, I went in the list and all the stuff we were talking about, I threw in the side so I can remember what all we got here that we're trying to find room for. Like 4 agitation, 4 aggregate disposition. Oh, wait, not aggregate disposition. Oops, wrong one. Capabilities, encouragement, bad guys, super regen, Tracy cape. There we go.
Yeah. Apathetic of the 3 of you have in your main board, I think is totally fine. You could put one in the sideboard for if your opponent has like onboard tricks, right? Like this is the main way that we get to fight this, and Evil Gaze is the main way that we get to fight Kirishima stuff. But unfortunately, he just picks up that face down foundation, and we feel bad.
Yeah, apathetic doesn't really seem that great against Kirishima because I thought about that. It's like, well, he's just gonna pick it up. That's not really.
But it is one of our only tools to slow him down for a turn, right?
The only other thing I thought that was kind of like it seemed useful in general, but specifically it seemed also like a Kirishima hate card is Villainous Entrance.
Yeah.
But I don't like I think that helps against him. I'm not sure 100% if it actually does or not.
Personally, I think that that Villainous Entrance is not that great. I think the best part of Villainous Entrance is actually to my opponent has 2 cards that they don't care about whenever I play Touch of Decay, and I stun 2 them, and then I enhance Commit to give it stun 1 and stun them a real foundation, and then blow up Villainous Entrance for Touch of Decay's ability to destroy one of the cards that I've stunned. And so now, like, they actually have to make a choice to, like, pay the 2 health.
Are you talking about Turn to Dust?
That's what I meant to say. That's totally what I meant to say. Turn to Dust, not Touch of Decay. My bad.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see it working real well with a card like that.
Yeah, but inside of Bakugo, like, the only other thing that I can see, because, like, it just wants to be an aggressive card in Bakugo. Because flip after your opponent, after rival builds a foundation during the combat phase, commit it, playable while committed. I mean, if they absolutely want to, if they want that card ready, they just pick it up and they play it as Kirishima. Like, I don't think this card actually does anything against Kirishima, sadly. I wish it did more, that's for sure. Yeah, the best part about this card is it's spam, and it's a low block in our deck that we don't have a ton of low blocks, but we're going to fix that. Keen Observation we already talked about. Nervous Habit, I think, is in the same boat as Let's Fight Bad Guys. Lose 1 health or +1 speed is really, really solid in our deck. Just because, like, normally lose 1 health to guarantee 6 damage, we're going to just win that exchange every time. This is one of those button presses like we talked about with new classmate introductions. This is the closest thing that we have to a new classmate introductions. Of just, I can just press this button and I don't care about my health. As a Magic player, as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, your health is a resource. And so just press this button all the time whenever it makes sense. I've seen plenty of people who, like, I show you that I'm going to block this move, and then they press their Nervous Habit button, and I just full block their move, and it sucks. So make sure you use this card smart. But this card I think is really good. But once again, it's a 2/5 with the 2 mid block, which we have a lot of spam, which we could cut down on some of, but like just we don't want to go overboard on the 2 checks or 2 diffs, or else build turn one, build turn two. We don't get to be the beatdown. We don't get to be the aggressor. What were you saying?
And, well, and also I guess with starting at 28, and especially if we go on the super regen play,
Mm-hmm.
the life is not going to matter as much.
Correct.
I've even seen, uh, I mean, it might be questionable grand scale, but just from personal experience, I've seen somebody in our area who plays, I can't name now, Eraserhead.
Mm-hmm.
He runs this when he's on death, and it's like and vicious beatdown or savage beatdown or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
you're at 19. Do you want to be paying all that health? But then sometimes it works out for him. I'm just like, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I think in my Death Eraser head, I had this card at like a 2, maybe a 3 of, just because, plus the difference between +2 speed and +3 speed is so massive, and I need to have all of my moves hit because of like the lame Mimi Eraser head that I'm playing. But yeah, I think the thing that Bakugo needs the absolute most is speed, right? Especially if we're gonna telegraph our low zone moves. So I think we have to play Nervous Habit inside of our deck. That's how I feel. We already talked about Villainous Entrance. Glamorous. This is another one of those cards that you could be considered a 4 of if you absolutely want to, but it is only because it is an aggro card because of the +3 speed if my opponent interacts with me, as well as response after you build this card, unflip 1 foundation. It is it's an easy. I've flipped a couple of my encouragements. I've flipped my Let's Fight Bad Guys. I've flipped my Super Regen. I have to build one last card. I'll build on the Glamorous. I've gotten a fresh foundation, and I've unflipped another resource. And so now I'm playing one of these other cool cards.
However, it is probably one of those that once I start making cuts, it's probably going to lose a few copies of.
Sure.
Especially if I'm making room for Trishy Cape.
Yeah. Because this card is a once per turn or once per game Trishy Cape, right? Whereas the other one is not.
No. Plus, it's like I don't want to open with Glamorous when I'm building, and I've got nothing to flip up anyway.
Very much so. Yeah. It does stink in that opening hand, like to the point where like you draw all foundations and attacks 9 times out of 10. The goal is just to get rid of your attacks and then redraw. But like if you see Glamorous in your hand, you could easily just like bottom deck your Glamorous and redraw too. Like it's not useful right now, so you could mulligan the Glamorous away. Yeah. Someone with style we had at a 4 of, right? Or 3 of. I think this card inside of Bakugo is a 1 of, but only because of its cost of enhance once per turn, destroy 1 foundation : is so high in a character that already says enhance destroy 1 foundation : If you start destroying 2 foundations on 1 attack, you're for sure never going to touch Deadlock, but you are going to jump out of the ability to play the game very quickly because you just won't have a stage. Like everything you're doing with Monster Blast is what you're just doing to yourself, just nuking your own board.
Yeah, especially with like Berserker Blow as well. It's like
I forgot about Berserker Blow.
Yeah, I can give like I almost never use Bakugo's actual enhance because it just seems so risky.
I only do it whenever they're at like 10 health or less.
That's it.
Yeah. And then Tight Lips, I think we had a 4 of. I love this play. I know personally in my Death Bakugo deck, I have it at a 2 of just because I'm playing some other... Like, I'm playing things like... Let's Fight Bad Guys.
For me, I just looked at Tight Lipped. I'm like, well, it's a 0, it's a 1 mid block, and it's not a terrible ability. I'm going to run 4 of it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. This lets you capitalize on destroying your foundations with Bakugo, right? This says that every time you destroy a foundation with Bakugo, it's actually +3 damage, which is great. I'll flip one of these bad committed face-up foundations for 1 damage, blow it up with Bakugo, and let it rock. Yeah. So I dig it. I have it at a 2 of, but I also play different spam foundations. I don't have the DLC cards on here. I certainly could go find them though if I don't click.
Yeah, I have my order in, but we
don't have access to it yet.
Coming in.
Okay. Yep. So from there, I think the big thing that we want to do with this deck is I kind of want to try and kill them on turn 2, turn 3. Have some of my foundations be there for some slight defense, like our super regens, but like all of this speed hate with shock absorption, I don't think that we need it, man. I'm not positive. Like, unless you feel like you're absolutely petrified of some crazy like Eraserhead deck, I think shock absorption being at a 2 of inside of your deck, maybe a third in the sideboard is where we should be, and we need to be way more active with our game plan and really push these attacks through. You have a really all your foundations are really good at like not dying because of how much defense you have, but like another way to not die is to kill them. They can't kill you if you just kill them first.
Defense through offense sort of thing. Yeah,
Correct.
I dig it. And it also has come up where it's another one of those things where it's like one thing I don't want to double dip on is like losing foundations, obviously. So like shock absorption and mediator, they're really good defensively, but at the same time, it's like, well, they blow themselves up. It's like that's not going to synergize with all my other effects that want me to destroy stuff. That is one thing.
Correct. Yeah. The best thing we can do at Bakugo, honestly, is flip. If the more things that we can have flip so it stays on the board for our turns for our +2 damage to work, the better. And this character, it is impossible to be deadlocked. It's kind of why I like this character so much. On my face, enhance destroy foundation : like I cannot be infinite and void. It's not possible. You can't do it to me. I will live my life at 10 foundations and I will love it. And in this specific deck, if you have built your deck poorly and not covered your block zones, then I'm just going to blast rush turbo you to death, right? Exploding Pride for the big momentum decks.
Oh man, one of these days I'm gonna exploding pride on like an All Might sitting on 6 momentum. It's gonna feel great.
Yeah, for sure you are. That is gonna feel great. I love that. So yeah, a quick recap. Yeah, I think we need to find a place for Corrosion Lunge. And then I think we need to take our foundation lineup and skew it a little more towards the aggro game plan. You said
So
do you have this deck in paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
For most all the cards that we've talked about adding,
Mm-hmm.
I went ahead and I threw for as many as I have copies of,
Right.
I threw them in the side. So if you like refresh, you can see I've got it set up so we've got like a list of them like right here.
Oh, look at that.
I mean, I've
Hell
got
yeah.
4, but we said we're only going to do one. So
Yeah. Yeah,
pretty
this
sure.
is yeah, this is great. This is super super good. Okay. 18 attacks. How do you
So
feel about Howitzer Impact?
see, that's one where I mean the numbers are good on it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think it's really just one of those that I wanted to just try out
Mm-hmm.
as another low attack. It's not fantastic in practice.
Yeah.
1 high is great for a
Yeah,
block,
it's very good.
but I mean 6 base damage is fantastic. I thought I read somewhere while we're on this card, does it can be any as long as you destroyed a foundation, right? It doesn't like if I use like if Monster Blast goes off and I destroy a foundation with that effect, does that still count for
No,
the
I'm fairly positive the way that like the way that it works logically is you are telling your opponent to destroy a foundation. You are telling your opponent which foundation to destroy.
I thought the way it works in this game, because it took me a while to get used to how this works, is like if it's destroy one foundation, that lets you attack. But if it's like an effect says your rival destroys one foundation, then because it's saying your rival, that's when they get like to choose, and that's them doing it.
The person I would trust in chat to correct me on this would be Fidu if he's still here. But I'm pretty sure that's you are forcing your opponent to destroy one foundation. Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking that is so if that's the case and my land destruction doesn't even reduce the cost of howitzer impact,
Mm-hmm.
that it loses more points in that case.
Love that.
Is what I'm saying.
Attack wise, all I would do would be to take out the double howitzer impact, take out the signature right swing, and put corrosion lunge in at a 3 of. And now this card is pretty much guaranteed momentum because if it's blocked, we're going to have my next one get +2/+2, which is going to be insane on your blast rush turbo because it's now a 3 low +3/+5 because we also get to destroy get rid of corrosion lunge. This card's insane in our Bakugo deck as long as we get to follow it up with Blast Rush Turbo. And they should always, always, always be petrified of that.
So the right swing, the reason it just kind of a one of was I think I was at like I needed or I felt like I needed just like one more card
Mm-hmm.
and or I felt like I needed like maybe one more attack
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a one low block.
Yeah.
Corrosion went 3 low. It's not really that bad either for that in that regard. But I was just looking at it, I'm like, well, I've got a sometimes if I've got like I had like an XR, so I was like, oh, I'll throw one in because why not? Just some extra like draw and discard. And I'm really surprised that when I added that, I didn't remember latent skill at that point because it's the same thing. It's not a foundation, but whatever.
I think that you're going to have more. I think that corrosion lunge is just going to be more impactful on your game state than the one of signature right swing. The best part about
Oh
this
yeah,
card
no, looking at
existing
it, I
is
totally
the
believe
is
you.
the one low block, right? Which we've already said that like our main issue with this deck is that we're not holding things to block with, and
Mhm.
so why not just like as opposed to patch our
I
weaknesses,
mean,
let's double down on our.
yeah, and like I could totally see like how crippling it'd be. Like, let's say I go Monster Blast, Corrosion runs, Berserker Blow.
Yeah,
They're
man.
they're
Yeah.
gonna have a hard time after that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah,
That's a line and a half.
it's definitely one I'm surprised I didn't consider more. So yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think Howitzer Impact. I think it should exist in some Bakugo lists. Maybe actually, what I think is going to happen with Howitzer Impact is I think in set one, I think this card's going to be a little lackluster. I bet whenever we get more Bakugo stuff, because there's no way we don't get more Bakugo stuff. Maybe that's where like this card starts popping off. Because man, a 4 low or 4 diff 4 low for 6 or a 4 diff 6 low for 8 is like some crazy stats. That's some big numbers. But I think taking the double howitzer out and the signature swing
Yeah.
for lunch is the right
I,
call.
I guess the other thing with Howitzer too is like since I get the feeling we're going to be cutting back on some of the foundations that like destroy themselves as cost. That's even more of a reason to just not. We're not going to get the like. I feel like if you play it as a 6, it's not worth it. So you have to be playing as a 4. And I get it synergizes with Bakugo, but like if you're throwing Howitzer Impact, it's going to be like has either it doesn't really feel like a poke. It feels like somewhere where you want to try to get in there. I mean, maybe it's a poke, but it's like
I think howitzer impact is good as
I
like
would.
the fourth or fifth card that you play, right? Like it's really good late on a string.
But if it's one of those things where like I already have to have basically used Bakugo's enhance that turn
Correct.
prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
If that's safe for the kill shot, then I'm not going to be doing it while I'm poking, leading up to Howitzer Impact.
Correct.
So
Yep.
that does make it a lot more awkward now that I know how that ruling works.
For sure. Nightmare, I agree with Fidu. Relentless Barrage is a very cool Bakugo deck. It can't be this list because we only have one punch that we get to play with.
Yeah.
Also, not a low, and we're trying to monster blast people.
I mean, great card. But yeah, I also really prefer it in lists that like, I mean, outside of Nomu because it's just ridiculous. But like, I tried. What was it? I think I tried an evil Tokiyami build once, and I was like, well, I'm milling myself anyway. Why not just throw in Relentless Barrage and like eat my sticky balls with Great Brush Attack?
That was the first Tokiyami list that one of my locals played. He played Eat My Sticky Balls and Grape Rush. And you know what you want to do against a Grape Rush played as the third attack? You want to block it. Crazy enough.
Yeah, I started working on that deck, and then I saw like what an evil deck looks like foundation wise, and I was like, I'm going to look at other symbols and see what we got here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly on classmate introductions. That is a really great card, and it's one of the first ones I really liked when I was playing like during the pre-release draft. Um, and like if you're playing Tokoyama and you've got like several copies of Stronger and Darkness and classmate introductions in play, like you're killing people.
Yeah.
But at what cost, you know? As far
Right.
as yeah,
Let's
but
go ahead and look at foundation wise. Or let's go to assets and actions. So assets, I think you put in the one tray sheet cape because of the other cards that we're going to be putting in the deck. I
yep.
think Evil Gaze, if you can find 4 of this card, you play 4 of this card. I think this is the best ultra rare pound for pound in the entire game.
Should I? But I should keep in what I've got though, right? It's not one of those like 4 or nothing cards.
Correct. Very much so. Yeah. Yes. And this card is helping our game plan of like land destruction,
Pressure.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So like Evil Gaze Berserker Blow is like insane. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. That
Yep.
sucks. Sorry, man. You better block it, or else I'm gonna blow it up, and you'll take 6, possibly 8. Agitation, I could easily see at a 3 of. Personally, I think this card is bonkers, but I also play personally. I play thick decks. I play like 60 card decks. Very, very, very rarely do I want to drop down below like 60 cards, just because I'm a old salty vet of universes, and I've been milled out, and it feels bad.
Yeah, and I mean that's the other thing I like about working with decks in here is like there's really not a hard cap, so to speak, on decks. So it's like I can cut a few cards, add a few more in that like even over what I cut.
Yeah.
Which is
I think capabilities at a 1 of would be fine. This card is easily one of the ones that you could cut. It really depends on how quickly you want to try and end the game. I personally include cards like capabilities in my main board so that it can be cut for more cool sideboard support. Like this is one of the first cards that gets cut if I've got like a super regen in the sideboard, right? It's not a 4 of, it's a 3 of in my main board, but 1's in the side in case I can't block Eraserhead moves. Capabilities gets cuts to play super regen. Stuff like that, right? Encouragement has to be a 4 of in our deck. I won't let you walk out today without it being a 4 of. Personally, I think Let's Fight Bad Guys needs to be a 4 of, just because I need to guarantee that I'm telegraphing my moves so much that I need to make sure that my telegraphed moves can hit so that I can end the game. I think Super Regen at a 3 of is good, and I don't think that we need Mediator for it. I think Mediator's not that great if we're not playing our full package of Evil Gaze. Because we want to Evil Gaze the first move and then Mediator the second move and then redraw to catch a block. But since we don't have the full package, I think we have to just wait on that card. Nervous Habit could easily be like a 2 of in here. Maybe like maybe lose 2 Tight-Lipped or something. Maybe 1 Someone with Style and put it in there. Latent Skill could easily be a 3, possibly a 4 of, depending on how quickly you want to just like murder them. And then we gotta talk about Corrosion Lunge. Yeah, I would play around with some of these 4 ofs inside of your list, and try and slot in some of these other cards. Even if it's like Glamorous comes down to a 3, Someone with Style goes down to a 1, Tight-Lip goes down to a 1, maybe a 2, Villainous Entrance gets cut altogether because that card sucks. It is a low block though. Did I miss low blocks? Let's go back and look.
what were you saying about shock absorption?
Shock Absorption. I think Shock Absorption gets cut for Let's Fight Bad Guys. I think that Shock Absorption is not very good as a card, and if absolutely necessary, you could put it in your sideboard and try it there.
Okay. How do you feel about the burst speed and keen observation ratio there?
Keen Observation. I think Keen Observation is fine because it is spam, but we could easily... because like we don't have any zeros inside of our deck currently. We opted not to play... or I guess we have Tight-Lipped. Just kidding. Oh, we opted not to play In Danger. And I think... I want this card to be so much better than it is. Destroy
Yeah, that one I've
-3
tried,
speed
and
is...
it's just...
Yeah.
It's awkward. 'Cause, like if they're gonna kill you, it's gonna be like a 3 speed just doesn't matter sometimes.
Correct. Not from a destroy cost. If it said flip, I think I'd be down. Or if it says something like -4, -5 speed, I'd be in. But c'est la vie. Yeah, let's go back all the way. Oh, I just didn't even click the low block button. Blocks.
All right. So if you wanna, so I basically applied the changes that we just talked about. So it should look
refresh.
at a refresh.
Ooh. Okay.
Like your idea what
3,
we're working
2,
with. So far.
3, 4, 4, 1. Love it. 2. Okay, so now that we have this, wow, this tech lineup looks so much cleaner. This tech lineup looks so good, dude. Trashik, the Evil Gaze. Okay, look at block zones.
What do you think about
Stats.
Arrogant Disposition?
Ooh.
I forgot about that card entirely.
Arrogant Disposition. No idea.
I think it was another one of those I threw in more for numbers than for effect.
Oh, Arrogant Disposition is great.
Punches do seem really prevalent.
Yeah. Punches are going to be insane in the format for sure. This being a 1/6 with 2 low block is fantastic. Not to mention the fact that like with our new cuts, we have gone down to 9 low blocks.
Yeah.
And so we might have to cut some of these highs. Actually, we have to cut some of these mids. And so the answer is, let's go to our block zone mids. How do you feel about burst speed just getting cut? How do you feel about that? Would that be crazy?
I can see it, especially since I guess part of me just wanted something like I have a go-to for if I have to pop my foundations.
Yeah.
I mean, is that is effectively +2 damage going to be something that progresses my victory? I mean, on paper, yes, because they're losing more health, but if this needs to be, if it's this or something, if it's this or another low block, what's going to be more useful, basically, if that's what we're looking at.
I think that this is one of the ways that your standard Bakugo deck actually gets to combat Nomu, but
Which that tells me side deck at best.
because of the fact that we are on the Monster Blast Berserker Blow, that's our game plan. We also get to slow down Nomu a ton because Monster Blast destroying response commit, make this damage 6. Berserker Blow saying, yo, you have to block me or else I'm going to destroy another key piece, right?
Yeah,
like
five-handers don't get to build too quickly very often. That's true.
Correct. And so like Monster Blast Berserker Blow existing in our deck versus Nomu says that maybe we don't have to burn them because maybe we can actually sneak in some real damage because they won't have the resources to 1, swing back at us, and 2, protect themselves at the same time, right? Being able to Monster Blast Berserker Blow destroy 2 of their super regens is like kind of crazy. It's very, very good. And so maybe you cut 3 burst speed and put back in.
Chat seems pretty high on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, don't get me wrong, I think the card is great, right? But when you take and you compare it to the other 2 diffs that we have, maybe you could cut Latent Skill. I don't think you're allowed to cut Apathetic, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of compared to what we need and what we've got, I think,
compared to our other 2 diffs and compared to our other mid blocks, I don't think the burst speed really pushes this game plan through. I think that burst speed is one of those cards where I get to fill holes. If you were down just to like, how many cards in the deck? 55. If you were down to push this thing up to like 60 to 66 cards, I'd be burst speed in at a 4 of, right? But like, since we are keeping it at a 55 card deck, we
don't have to, but
that's the assumption that we have currently.
We are still right now. We're looking at what we need to get the low block count up.
Yeah.
Before we worry about anything else, so I can cut it, and then like if we're polishing it and we see we have room for it, I can put it back in.
Yeah.
I'll just throw them on the side for now.
I think we do need to play Glamorous though out of the 4 of. I think that has
Glamorous
to be
4, really,
only because of the low block.
Exclusively
because of the low block, and
there
are so many targets.
Block if I don't build it. So there you go. Okay.
And then our other, we said.
So if we're not on, burst speed, does that take down keen observation's usefulness?
Say again one more time.
Keen observation. So if we don't have burst speed, keen observation is really only there for like that and monster blast.
Oh, then it should leave. Good call. Good call.
Yeah, I'll just put it aside so we remember it in case I do go back on burst speed. Now that was a 0, so does that mean we should go?
So like monster blast is the build around it, so we can't cut that.
Or is like that still fine?
That was the first thing that we brought up, and so we just have to.
Zeros just seem pretty good to me, anyway.
Zeros are great. Zeros are very, very good. I just wish there was a 0 that was a low block, right? To the point where we might even have to put Villainous Entrance back in at a 2 of just to shore up our low blocks and just like be content with that card not being fantastic, but not getting blown out by the mirror match of Monster Blast Rush, Monster Blast Turbo. Yeah. Besides that, I say let this deck rock, dude.
What about going down on maybe like 1 apathetic? That's good.
I'd be okay with that. Yeah, take off 1 apathetic or 1 latent skill, and then do this. 18 attacks for a 55 card deck is a little high, and so the likelihood of you like drawing dead is going to be low. But at the same time, the only way that Bakugo gets to like kill a lot of people is if he draws 5 attacks, and so like there's going to be some hands where you have 3 attacks, 3 foundations, you latent skill, discard, draw your last 2, they are attacks, and now you just get to kind of pop off. And so it really depends on, do you want to be more aggro with latent skill, or do you want to be more disruptive with apathetic? That's the question, right? And whichever one you feel you need, put in the sideboard.
Now, it probably doesn't matter as much, but another thing too. Well, first of all, I don't think I want to go below 3 latent skill, now that I actually remember to put it in the deck. But another factor with apathetic is it's 1 more to block with and 1 less on check too.
True. Yeah.
Granted, that doesn't matter too much. 4 blocks don't really seem that bad in the grand scheme of things.
Apathetic's a 3, but you meant to say 4 check?
It's check, right?
Yeah.
Blue number, yep. And then
the big blue.
Like we said, it's not gonna do as much against like Hiroshima or a lot of times when I'm playing against other builds that run apathetic, it's kind of like, all right, whoever gets the first chance, apathetic's the other apathetic. It's kind of weird.
Being able to stop pull no punches, you're so obvious, charged up, coordinated effort in non-Hiroshima decks, manly passionate guy, night watch, flip 1 to stop stronger darkness is great. Think fast is really good versus like any zero deck. Note taking, passing the torch, like all of these are your opponent's agitations, capabilities, encouragements, latent skills. Specialist of sound is going to be insane. So like being able to stop their defensive plays is going to be really big. But like maybe you sideboard that 3rd one and possibly even the 4th one and be like, yo, if they just are jamming down 4 specialist of sounds and like that's their main game plan is to block out everything. First off, they're building low blocks, they suck. But like being able to stop their defensive plays so that as my 6 hand size aggro character, I can push my attacks through. That might be just where it's at.
Yeah, I think I'll keep 3 and then just side like a 4th one.
Okay. And then the other option, honestly, is just like maybe you just make this like a 57 card deck and you just toss those 2 glamorous in on top and then let it rock, right? That would push up to 11 low blocks and then see where that gets us.
Think, whoops, hold on. And I think even if I put the observations and burst speeds back in, we are at 57 card deck, 19 highs, 11 lows, 27 mids. If you want to refresh, that's where I got it right now. It looks pretty solid, actually.
I think that this, at the very least, is a good point to test and then figure out, what am I losing to? What am I not losing to? Yeah. Scorpius, how you feel, man? This is a good looking deck.
It definitely seems like it's going to do a lot better.
Nice. I'm excited. Let me know over on Patreon what your win rate is whenever you go to locals. What worked, what didn't. I'd love to chat and we can work on this again.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be very fun.
Yeah, hopefully next time I get a play, it might be on Saturday. If not, if next time I catch one of your streams where you're playing against people, I might have to take this against you.
That would be very fun. I know that I'm pretty sure that I'm playing tomorrow against people, but I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, Friday night I'm gonna be out, but we'll get there.
We'll play it by ear. I will be here live every week. This is the job. All right, man. I got more of these that I gotta get to, so I will catch you next time. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, man. Peace.